Bart, you know, I mean.
You're in better hands with Ann. She knows what she's talking about.
I know Ann's got an outline here, probably, I don't know if she's got a presentation, wants to kind of talk through it as we go through it, or?
Opportunity to review and ask questions.
All right, so, just kind of go through on the outline piece, I guess, that on the general fund revenues. Some changes from the prior year. Obviously, taxes, real estate taxes are a big piece of that, with the increase in assessment and a tax rate we're proposing, plus a boundary adjustment and additional.
And the tax rate, the real estate tax rate, which is usually what
Right.
gets the most discussions.
We advertise 29 cents, so we can't go higher than that.
And we do need you all to make a decision about that later this evening at your regular meeting so we can get the bills out.
Right, so, I mean, if there's some questions on that, now would probably be a good time to kind of talk about that and hammer that out, so, does anybody got any thoughts on the tax rate, or?
Yeah, but I want to finish my food.
Okay.
Okay. For every 1 penny that we would, I know the lowest we could go is 25 cents, if I'm not mistaken. For every penny that we would lower the real estate tax rate, how much would we have to make in cuts?
Penny is worth $84,000 in this budget.
1 cent to 84,000. So to go to the equalized tax rate of 25%, you're looking at $336,000 in cuts. So, well, obviously that's, I'll say a couple things about this budget that I've been harping on probably ever since I've been up here, is the fact that we have, at least over the last, I don't know how many years, but 3 or 4 years at least, we've balanced our budget with prior year's reserves, which is basically our rainy day fund, which makes absolutely no financial responsibility sense. I mean, but we had to do it because, you know, times were lean and, you know, we got to meet our obligations. So, you know, we've eliminated that. And that's the first step, I think, to really strengthening our financial position. The second thing I'd like to say is, you know, we over the last several years have probably been living off of about $1 million transfer from the electric fund. I don't know if you all heard from anybody about that, but I certainly have. That they thought that was probably too much, you know. So we've cut that to $500,000. The third thing that we've always never had since I've been on here for almost, I guess this is the 10th year, we've never had any contingency line item in our budget. So, you know, if something comes up, somebody's got a pet project, or an emergency comes up, you know, we find a way to fund it. I mean, but, you know, we're going and hitting more of our prior year reserves. So, I mean, those 3 things right there are kind of the first step in my mind to really strengthening the financial position of this town. It's a pretty lean budget in my opinion. I mean, I know our departments have had to cut and pinch and do everything they can to make it, you know, balance. And you know, there's another piece to this. I mean, there's well, I'd say there's no capital improvements in this budget. $40,000 in the general fund budget. So, you know, now some of that capital that we used to see in the budget has gone from capital to the leasing program. That's another good thing. You know, we won't see those vehicles in capital. But to go ahead and try to cut and find another $300,000, I mean, you're either gonna, so I mean, if you're proposing that, I want to hear where you're going to cut, because I want to know what services you're going to cut.
Let me interject something as well, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
That's what.
I did not submit any proposals for outside agency funding. You have $85,500 in requests, but I did not include that in the general fund for a couple of reasons. One is my wife is the chief of staff for the D-Day Memorial, and I have an obvious conflict of interest.
Right.
But the other is that we built in a contingency that would allow you to fund those from that contingency, if that's your desire.
Right. And we'll talk
Just
about
want to
that.
make everybody aware that
They're not in.
there's
they're not in this number
85,500
right now. So, there might be, I think there, 84,000, I thought it was more like 60-some thousand, so 84,000 is,
That's the new number with
that's the
phase
new
two.
number for a penny, so I mean, even if we did a one more cent,
New boss with me, Chad.
which kind of gets us from the 31, the midpoint between 31 and 25. I would like to see find a way to do 1 cent, but, I mean, at the same time, I just want to hear where people want to make cuts, if they want to make cuts,
So one day I understand that we are, let me talk in the microphone. One day I understand that we talk about bringing back the depot tax this year, correct?
Yes.
That will bring how much, Ann?
We have 200,000 in the budget for that.
Now, when we say we were bringing back the default tax, that would only apply to retail businesses with sales of $3 million or more.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Okay,
it's an important clarification. I
Right.
mean, we have no intention of ever bringing it back for everybody, because we do think that small businesses, it is an advantage for us to continue to absorb that. But for the largest, frequently corporate citizens that are typically paying those everywhere else they're located, we thought it was worth discussing that.
And that's included in here, that reinstatement of that default tax
Okay.
is included in here.
Okay.
That 200,000.
So again,
No, that's not something, I mean, that's,
So, I mean, obviously, it's not a new tax. I mean, it was around, it's a new tax right now, kind of, but I mean, it was here
10 years ago.
10 years ago. I don't know if that was part of the reversion negotiation or if it was just,
It was a policy decision.
yeah. But it cost the town, what, about $500,000 is what the town was collecting.
Yeah, it was at least 400.
In 2013, I think it was around 563,000.
Oh, okay.
As a city.
Right, as a city, so.
We continue to sell business licenses. There's two components. There's a $30 application fee that everybody pays. Then there's the tax. We still charge the $30 application fee, which gives us some revenue, but we do not currently assess the tax.
Right.
Yeah, if you're looking at your revenue detail, you'll see a line item in there. It's not very descriptive. It says contractor. That's actually where all the application fees are going. For business licenses, it's $21,895 next year. So that's where our existing business license application fees go.
So we sell about 700 business licenses. Good to know.
And other than real estate taxes on businesses, that's really the only tax we charge our business, the only fee we charge our business. I mean, we do get a portion of the sales tax,
I don't know why it's not.
but we don't collect every bit of the sales tax in town. I don't know if you understand how it's basically 50% of the school-age children in town compared to the school-age children in the county. And then, so if that number is 20%, then we get 20% of all the local sales tax in the county.
the county's getting the 80%.
The county's getting 80%, correct.
That's what I thought.
That's a
That's
very
what I've been
small
saying.
portion. We're probably getting like 1% or less of that tax by the time you do that.
Yeah.
calculation.
And what is that kind of,
So that sales tax is in here.
like 345? Is that what you got?
Yes, 345,991.
So obviously, as the county's sales grow, we do benefit from that, but it's still a small percentage.
County's getting the biggest portion of it.
So I think at some level, there's got to be some debate over the fairness between what we charge our businesses in taxes versus living on the real estate tax rate for our residents. But, you know, do you get there overnight or not?
You don't get that overnight.
You don't get there overnight.
It's a progress.
Right. So that's my take. So, I mean, Bob, you got any comments? Darren?
Yeah, as far as the B-poll reinstatement of what was there before, is it at the same rate that it was before?
Correct.
So Walmart was here, Lowe's was not here. I don't know, was Lowe's
I
here
don't think
too?
Lowe's was in
I don't think
corporate limits, was it?
That's correct. They've never paid it.
I mean, I try to think of justifications for taxes, and I'm guessing our police get out to Walmart quite frequently.
Yes.
So they're using your services. We don't do much in the way of public works over there, do nothing. Fire.
Fire, yeah.
They're a decent-sized electric customer, right? I just don't want to get into the business of punishing them, you know, but, you know, you got to pay for what you're getting. As far as if we were to hold on the B-poll tax for this year, because in talking to the mayor, it was, I think, if I'm misquoting you, let me know. It's to replace the 750 that we may be losing or will be losing from the county. That's in 5 years, though?
Yes.
I mean, if we're talking about not equalizing the property tax, maybe we can ease into that in next year on the B-poll and readdress it. Especially if it was at 29 rather than say 27 or 25, as Mr. Hartwick was addressing. If it's at 25, you're looking at, we got to cut 300 and something thousand somewhere, right? Is that about?
Yeah, but then it, yeah. Okay.
I'm saying if we went to 25, obviously, I know you guys don't want to do that. I'm saying hypothetically, that's what we'd have to trim somewhere, right?
So if you went to 25 cents and no B poll, you'd be looking at around $500,000 to
Yeah,
cut.
Okay.
that's what I was getting at.
All right. See, I'm just trying to get the different scenarios. So if you went to 29 with no B poll, what would you be looking at?
200,000. So
Still, at 29, you'd still be 200,000 short?
that's what the budget's proposed at for 29 cents.
Hmm.
You do have a $200,000 contingency, though, so again, you've got that available, but you
That's
can
not,
only trade one thing for that, I guess, is,
Yeah.
when you talk, are you talking about for the outside agencies?
Well, there's a $200,000 contingency built into the general fund
Because,
budget, which.
I mean, we're doing this, and then we're giving money to outside agencies. I mean, they're really not outside agencies, that's a misnomer. They're
Yeah,
local,
yeah.
they're local, you know, nonprofits, I guess, is what they are, and there's a lot of those. And I've been clear since I got on council, I love these places, I personally give to them, but I don't think it should be coming out of our budget, I just don't. That's me, I usually lose that argument, but, I mean, if we're talking about imposing a new tax and then giving money away, I have a real hard time with that. So, they're great organizations, but there's lots of great organizations that taxpayers don't pay for and shouldn't pay for. So that's my take on that. I'd personally like to hold off on the B-poll. Because, I mean, at least with the property tax rate, we are reducing the rate. I understand people are going to still be paying more, but there was inflation, you know, at the town, so I think it's justifiable on the property tax rate. The B-poll, not so much, and I think if we held off 1 year, I don't think we'd be really in big trouble. That's my take, and that would include, I think there are little areas here and there that we could trim and get close to that, if it is 200, to get close to that we could cut back, like nonprofits, giving money away, things like that. I didn't see in here, Bart, as far as the YMCA, I thought they were asking for like $250,000, but I didn't see it in here.
Well, and they did not submit it through the typical process, but I think their ask would be $50,000 over 5 years, which is $250,000.
Yeah.
Not that we necessarily have it. Right. But yes, thank you for bringing it up.
On that
They
depot,
do want that, but they have not submitted the documentation.
on that depot rate, that .20 per 100, is that set in state code, what the rate you charge, or is that less than what other localities around us are charging?
I think that's the cap. that you can charge, like the maximum you can charge, and you can always go down from that. I'm looking at Mike. Mike knows that pretty well.
Yeah, the state code allows for a maximum rate. I can look up what the rate is for retailers. It varies between retailers and wholesalers and service professionals and so forth. I remember services cap of 36 cents per hundred, and public utility companies are 50 cents per hundred and so forth. But there are different rates, and you can go lower, but you can't go higher than the state cap.
So we don't know really where we stand on that state cap, but at the .20 right now.
I can look it up if you want.
We pulled the old rate, is what I did.
That's what the city charged. Okay, all right,
The 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Do we know how it compares to other localities? Like what our rate is compared to?
The past locality I was at that rate.
Same?
Yeah.
Most localities are at or very near the cap.
The cap.
We know what the revenues are overall they collect.
What would you consider phasing that in over 2 years, Darren?
I think it's a little bit, I mean, instead of a big shock to the system, we have some other shocks to the system here we've all faced lately that I think maybe we could ease in a little bit. That's, I mean, something to discuss. I think it's a reasonable option. And as far as, this is switching gears a little bit, but with the electric transfer too, I did have a conversation with Ms. Cantrell yesterday about all I've ever been concerned with about that transfer is being able to justify it. Like, okay, we can't just, it's not a piggy bank, you know? And I think there is justification based on my conversations with the finance director as to the amount, and I think there's some wiggle room for some more based on my conversations. So I think that's another possibility to help offset, at least temporarily, and before we just start throwing all this out at once.
Well, only thing I'm gonna say, I agree with you on that to a point, but what I understood, the conversations I had with Mr. Warner or whatever, I was only gonna affect just certain businesses this year, and then next year it falls into another bid thing. Am I correct, like a 3 or 4 year plan or something like that?
Well, 3 million was where we were intending to start and see what the impact was. And frankly, if it wasn't seen to be onerous, we might talk about that as a path to get us away from the 750 over time, you know. I asked Ms. Cantrell to do some projections on what we would get at 2 million, for instance, but we're not proposing that right now. Again, we know this is a
As far as other
Big enough to-
possible businesses that we know have at least expressed some interest, I don't know their gross revenues and receipts. I mean, and I don't know which ones we can talk about openly. I
Yeah, I
can't
don't know
remember
that we're
which ones are
supposed to
still in
know, but-
closed session. I just don't want to scare anyone away.
yes.
So which ones would that affect, or do we know right off, or?
We can assume some things probably in a public discussion. I think
Okay, okay.
any large retailer that's headquartered in another state,
Okay.
possibly Arkansas.
I got you. Okay. But that's at the 3 million.
Yes, their sales are
Okay.
certainly in excess.
We
And- and-
checked that no restaurants currently met that threshold, so none of our restaurants at this point would also get that fee.
And, you know, I'm kind of the mindset in that I don't like adding additional taxes. But at the same time, if this is a way to offset what we're going to lose, then certainly let's ease into it gently. But at the same time, how much do we really need?
Would a large grocery still be in the 3 million category?
Potentially.
I only think of one, not,
Yeah.
I mean, there's two that here in town that,
And some of this is anecdotal, though, too, I'll say, because I talked to our economic development person as well. You know, our intelligence says that we're probably the only locality that is not charging these folks, that everywhere else they are, they're paying, and they don't question it. So we kind of thought of this as revenue we've left on the table for 10 years.
Once again, it kind of goes back to trying to diversify some of the sources of revenue so that at some point in time, we can maybe start giving a little bit more real estate tax relief. That's my thinking, but that's, you know. But like I said, you can't do all that in 1 year. It's got to be a step-by-step kind of process almost, but.
And I think what we need to do is look at how can we lessen the burden on those that could be annexed in on part two. Now, I'm also looking at what some of the department heads are doing or have done to make things a little bit cheaper for their department. An example is Ronnie right here found some new badges for the police department that were he was able to get them quicker and they were cheaper than the old badges. Well done right there. I'm curious to find out what the other department heads have done to try and save money and doing something such as what Chief Lewis did for the police.
Well,
Let me-
Department heads are always looking to,
Let me speak to personnel costs
Right.
and draw your attention to the fact that we are implementing the pay study, and that's budgeted. Most, I say most, and you can tell me if I say anything incorrect, a lot of our neighboring localities are giving what I consider to be substantial cost of living adjustments in their budget. We're not doing that. We've talked to the department heads, we've talked to the employees, and we've told them, look, you're going to hear from our neighbors that I think one local authority has proposed an 8% COLA. We recognize that we probably are losing some competitiveness in recruiting at the front end. However, if you stay with us, you have opportunities for advancement here, and you slowly but surely will retire at mid or top of your grade.
yeah.
The other thing is, and I'm not a prophet, it's not my spiritual gift, but if a recession occurs, these neighboring localities are not going to have any cuts to make other than personnel. So the trade-off for our employees is we're not going to lay you off. But personnel costs, we are significantly lower in terms of our policy than probably everybody else around. So that's a cut that staff is offering. And of course, we appreciate the fact that we had a market study that says we're within the market, so we have the data to support it also, but we are not following the trend of asking you for a large COLA.
For some reason, I thought one had been figured in.
Well, the way the system will work is essentially if you're here and with the plan we're implementing, once we get all these steps in place, if you stay here, it's about a 1% adjustment each
some
year
are
within
getting
the plan.
A step raise because of the pay study?
Some people are getting a
Okay.
raise to the midpoint because of the market study,
Okay,
because they're out of
I
market.
got you.
But not, there's some employees who are not getting any increase in pay in this budget.
Correct.
Ain't it a second phase, is that coming up soon?
This is the second.
Well,
Right.
there will be another phase we want to talk about in January. Within this budget, we're getting everybody to the midpoint, which was recommended by the pay study. The next phase of it to fully implement things is a seniority pay, and that's what I just spoke to, that if you're here and you stay here, well, if you come here and retire here, and I know that may not be realistic for a lot of folks, you can retire at the top of the grade based on a 1% progression through the grades you've established. We're going to present that aspect to you in January, and we'll see how the
funded in this budget, or?
that's something we're going to bring back because we want to make sure the revenues are performing to support it.
Okay.
The intent is to do that, but we're not hitting you with that right now.
Okay.
But we're talking about 1%, and everybody else is talking,
I heard 8% from one of our
What's the
neighboring
county doing?
jurisdictions.
I've been seeing anywhere between 7 and 8%, but I haven't seen anything from Bedford County on our like local finance network.
are they kicking theirs in?
Not heard, though there's a regional water authority near us that's talking about 7 to 8%.
So, I mean, to me, that's something that shouldn't even be considered as going in and cutting any kind of compensation back. I mean, it's almost like people feel that the government doesn't have any inflationary pressures. I mean, wage pressures to keep people and to get people are substantial. I mean, just talk to our department heads. I mean, that are trying to fill positions. I mean, it's and everything we do. I mean, from buying gas to put in the police cars to in the fire trucks to every contract, every piece of work we go outside to do, I mean, we're paying more for it, just like anybody else. So, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I just think
It's tough everywhere.
it is. And, you know, I'm sensitive to the taxpayers, you know, but, I mean, like I said, we can only get as lean as we can get. And then we're gonna start affecting what we actually do around here.
Right, the work being done. And I probably asked this, why can't we get applicants? Or what is the holdup, more competitive in other areas? Or, yeah,
Exactly.
That's-
Yeah, I mean, let's say it, it's the truth. I
I
mean,
mean, some have even left.
Yeah, give you an example, we're looking to hire 2 trash people for the extra trash truck in the area we gotta take in. We hired a fellow from Lynchburg that was doing trash there.
Yeah,
Good applicant, got experience, he's already doing trash truck. He came here, worked 3.5 weeks. Lynchburg called him back and offered him $4 more an hour to come back. And we couldn't do that because if we offered him any more, he'd stay here, he'd be making more than the people that's already been here.
yeah.
That's the problem the school system is having now, because when they hire now, especially in the custodial and maintenance department, people get to negotiate what they make. And you have people coming in and they're making more than people that's been there for a while, or very close to it, so that's the same.
And that's a problem. It is a problem.
But I think a lot of them, I also see a lot of people who are more concerned with benefits than they are with how much money they make. I mean, they're concerned about the money they make, but people are concerned about benefits. If you got good benefits and you treat your employees right, they will work with you on raises and steps and all of that, you know,
Right.
because
Yeah.
of good benefits. So, I mean,
Right now, benefits go a long way.
they do.
And they will always have.
They really do.
but not the younger people, not the
we
younger
still have to.
generation. They still looking for what their hourly rate's gonna be.
We start talking about pay scales, we're talking about, talk about cutting services. We'll cut services without trying to. Because, I mean, Mr. Lewis has to have adequate staff. DW has to have adequate staff. I mean, it's just, you can't not consider that. And I don't want to see us cutting these people short.
But it's really, what I'm seeing, it's not everybody. It's a different work mentality now, in that this current generation, they don't think career. They think of going from job to job, like, who's going to pay me the most from this point to this point? I mean, my boys are the same way. Of course, my youngest son's in a career that he can do that in the accounting field, but at the same time, they don't think of getting with a company and staying there for 30-plus years. It's like they'll work a while, then someone else makes them an offer, and they go somewhere else. I mean, it's just the way it is now. I just sit back and watch. I don't get it. But that's the way it is. And not everybody, but some. And you probably see it with police officers. Yeah.
All right, so to move it along, do we want to do any kind of consensus to see where people? So obviously the tax rate, the real estate tax rate and the BPO are the things that people are talking, that we're debating, so.
But a couple questions for Ann. Number one, as far as services that, if, let's say we do provide services to the people that could be annexed in phase 2, how much does that cost us versus how much would that bring us in tax-wise?
We know the revenue side of that pretty well, that it's about $450,000 in taxes in the general fund, and then fees associated with solid waste. As far as costs, I mean, we're going to be paving roads. We'll be removing snow if it ever snows again. We'll be responding to police calls. We don't know what the number of that number is. It's probably not very high. I'm just generalizing.
We do it currently, though,
Well, we do it mainly through our mutual aid agreements.
but we still go.
But we'll be patrolling those neighborhoods, we'll be answering every call, and not, I mean, just not emergencies, I mean, every call.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Earl, I have a better answer on the revenues than we do the expenditures because we won't know exactly what the effort is until we get the demands for service. We know it'll be something, but we can't exactly
So
quantify.
not even a guesstimate at this point?
I don't think the expenditures match the revenues at this point, but I couldn't quantify that.
So obviously, if we do make some cuts, I mean, the first thing that's gonna come from is contingency. Have you thought of any other areas that potentially we could?
I do have electric fund transfer calculation for you to consider. So I did reach out to another local government, Culpeper. Virginia has an electric utility, and they have a methodology on their transfer. And so after talking with their finance director over there, I kind of applied the same philosophy with assistance from Mike and Bart here on what it could look like for us.
But obviously, if we go back and increase the transfer out of electric now, then we're gonna actually have to go back and adjust that budget, which means we're gonna have to make cuts
Yes.
there. It's,
There is a contingency over there, but it wouldn't fully cover the 689 at the bottom.
right.
It's close. It would be off 20,000.
But like I said, I mean,
So let me walk you through what this calculation is and what it's accomplishing. So the first thing we try to do is say, if the utility was paying a tax, what would it look like? So we kind of did a number based on capital assets. It's not 100% accurate to the jurisdiction, but this is capital assets in service at $1.06, real estate owned by the utility at 29 cents, and then a gross receipts tax that we're not currently charging to our town customers. And so adding all that together, we can justify around $480,000 as a payment in lieu of tax from the utility. So talking to Culpeper, what they do is they do a percentage of their billing revenue, and each year management sets that percentage similar to a tax rate as part of the budget process. So we looked at how could we get close to that tax as a percentage of billing revenue, and we got 2.1% as the closest we could get. Now, as Mike mentioned earlier, there's also a B-poll that most utilities pay, and so we calculated what that would be at the top. So the total would be $553,980. Now, the bottom piece here, these are costs that are currently big ticket items that the general fund pays for that are not coded to the electric fund. So there's things such as legal that are fully paid for out of general fund, audit, town advertisements, employee recognition, wellness clinic, and IT replacements. So we've identified about $135,500 in costs that the general fund is paying that could have been shared with the electric fund.
So, Ann, as far as the, I see, three categories here, you got 553,980, and then you got 479,851, and then 135,500. But then you got 689,480 as a total.
So the calculation to the side, the 479,815, I tried to take a percentage of billing revenue that got as close as I could to that number. So 2.1% got me really close to that 479,815.
Oh, okay, you moved it, okay, I see what you. So, I mean, if we were, God forbid, audited on this would justify it.
We're both looking at you like.
Oh, okay. Well, you're always going to get the benefit of the doubt of any court or auditor that's ever going to look at this, because
It gives us a foundation to say, well, this is where we got it from.
that's right. I can say, for instance, that to figure out the B poll, it was a rule of thumb issue. If you're a public service corporation, if you're the telephone company, you pay 50 cents per 100 in
Right.
gross revenues. So what Ann and I said was, well, just for an exercise, let's assume that 60% of the gross revenues of the electric utility, give or take, come from within town. Well, that's 0.325%, which works out to 74,000 and some change. That would just be, and so those were the sorts of numbers that we went through in order to figure that out. And you could true it up, I guess, at the end of each year if you wanted to, but we're just trying to get pretty close.
Whereas before we had nothing, it was just kind of random, so I like this a lot. I mean, I know what you're saying, Mayor, but under this, if we switched, I guess we took 500, this gives us keep your hat on.
So how much is the
An additional 189,480.94 cents.
So how much is the contingency in the electric?
It's 163. It's on page 79. Sorry, it's 160,568.
So let's think say we went to 28 cent on the real estate tax, that's 84,000. We moved 84,000 out of the electric contingency to make the electric transfer 584,000. So now we're at a wash, right?
Pretty much.
And that doesn't affect his, any of his budget other than his contingency. It doesn't, I mean, it gets 1 more cent off the real estate tax rate. It doesn't affect anything in I'm just thinking out.
Still the B, Paul.
Yeah, I know. So now we got the B poll, which is 200,000. So if we went to 0.10 for the first year, now we, instead of 0.20 per 100
On
on the B poll, the rate. So now now we got 100,000 that we got to cut out of the general fund budget. And how much contingency do we have there?
200.
200. So then we cut 100 there, and we still have a $100,000 contingency. The B poll tax is reinstated at 10 cents per 100 instead of 20 cents per 100.
Let me write this down. All right, 28 cents on the property. This is what you
Right, 28 cents. That's gonna reduce
B
real
poll.
estate taxes by 84,000.
B poll as it's right now is what again?
200,000.
The percentage.
0.20 per 100.
Oh, okay. And you're saying down to 0.1.
0.10. So that cuts 100,000.
If we were to switch this additional 189,480 and 94 cents.
No, I wasn't talking about switching that whole amount. I mean, we could switch that whole amount, but then that leaves no contingency in the electric.
Right.
You know, so I'd rather leave some contingency in both of them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, basically, we're now going $100,000 contingency in electric, $100,000 contingency in the general fund. Well, how much was your contingency? I'm sorry, you're going 80. You're going 80. But you got money in the bank.
Oh, I thought you were gonna take all of
No, no, I'm not proposing that. I'm proposing taking 84,000 of that 160 to replace the 1 cent reduction in the real estate tax. And then that's step 1. And then step 2, I'm proposing lowering the B poll tax to 0.10, which reduces it by 100,000 on the revenue side and taking 100,000 away from the contingency on the expense side, and you're still balanced.
On the electric contingency.
And your general fund's still balanced because you've taken 100 from your revenue and you've taken 100 from your expenses. So making sense? Yep. And obviously it doesn't eliminate the B poll tax, but it phases it in.
Correct, yeah.
I mean, $30 doesn't cover the police department going to these 2 big box stores.
I know.
all
That's
year long.
$100 from the fire department, the county.
So,
I like that idea.
So right now, we're at the 500,000 on the transfer as of now, in this budget.
Right, and we would go to 584,000. Right, the 1 cent, that what it said, budget was at 88, 84.
It's 84.
And then you're not asking any of our departments to cut anymore.
Annually, though, and annually, this is something that could be done quickly and easily.
I think so.
Instead of randomly picking a number and taking it.
Definitely, especially once we have the methodology here. So we say, all right, our payment in lieu of tax is 2.1% of our billing revenue. And we've set our groundwork on what our percentages
Right.
are, and we can roll that forward each year.
And even under Tim's proposal, we're still taking significantly less this year than we did last year.
Right.
Yes.
I'm a reasonable man, I think.
You are.
Some would say, some would not.
Depends on who you ask.
Anybody, did I make sense what I was, I mean,
Yeah.
I want to make sure you understood where, because I'm, you know me, I'll throw numbers at you, but I want to make sure you understood where I'm fixing stuff.
And that's lowering the tax rate to 28.
And that's lowering the tax rate to 28 cents,
Okay.
Which is a tight budget still.
which is the midpoint. What is it? So at the 29 cent, we were a 17% on average increase.
Yes.
So if we go to one more penny, is that going to get us down to 14? Can you,
I guess.
which inflation is 9.5%, 10%, so I mean, you know,
What was our equalizing rate, 25?
25. So we're
Okay.
splitting the middle. We're
Right.
basically splitting the middle
Yeah. I like that.
between the equalized and the, and
Proposed.
our current rate.
Yeah.
Believe me, I don't want to vote myself a 30% tax increase. That's what mine is.
I just pay it.
Yeah, one penny would get you down to 12%.
Which is a little north of inflation. I mean,
It's something. Anybody else feel, Bruce?
I'm fine with it. I think the more we can do, the better. That's
You know,
along those lines.
personally, I believe that, hey, we're on the right track, but if we can look for more cuts that we could possibly make. I know this part is not really the fun part of the job, but we all sign up for this part. And so, hey, 28 cents, that is progress. Wonder if there's anything we could do to maybe get down to 27.
like I said, I can't see it without cutting, cutting and not having any contingency in any fund,
Yeah, that's drawing blood.
That's not safe.
you know, or cutting,
We'll be back here trying to figure out where to steal it.
Yeah, something's gonna happen.
Yes.
And we're gonna be going, okay, now where we're gonna come up with
Well,
that
what did
money?
we-
You're gonna have to go out of your prior year reserves and go get it, so I mean, and that may still happen, because $100,000 is contingency on a, $10 million general fund budget is not, but it's a start,
That's a start.
and,
Yeah, all we need to do is have something major happen in the area.
one other thing that I know I was going to ask on the general fund revenues, and I don't know how this could factor in, but to me, I know where I would like to see it is, so the VDOT funding. We're at 1.6 million in here last year, so this budget has it at level funding, pretty much.
And actually, based on the latest data from VDOT on our current town, it should be 1,867,166.
So
we
we're
need to
right now,
have-
VDOT our reimbursement is increasing even without the boundary adjustment
Yes,
by 200
261,000.
so 206, and then with the boundary adjustment, that's gonna add another,
We are estimating here, but the last number I saw was 295,000. So for
so
a total of
300
556.
plus, 575,000 roughly.
Yeah.
So
So that's additional revenues we're
that's what I
gonna
want,
get, but
okay.
here's
But not
what I
in
would
this
like to
budget.
say about that. is we have cut the public works budget tremendously over the last couple of years. So, I mean, that, to me, and this budget here has only got $100,000 for sidewalks, $400,000 for paving. Is that, am I right, DW? $400,000 for paving and $100,000 in stormwater projects. So, to me, that money shouldn't factor into the rest of the general fund. You know, it should go into those three buckets, but that's just my thoughts on that. Or there may be other buckets that DW needs to kind of push back up, but.
We're, the stormwater, I thought county was responsible for.
They're responsible for monitoring, and we're responsible
Well,
for managing it.
they're
and fixing it.
responsible for surface water regulations. We're talking about actual runoff and
Right.
probably a slew of strong environmental regulations coming down the pike. I'll defer to Mr. Lockerbie. But we probably need to come up with a long-term strategy to deal with stormwater mitigation.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, we do need to come up with a long-term.
right, not probably. Something we-
Let me correct myself.
Yeah. I was
So, I
gonna
mean,
say.
to me, I mean, that is good news that we're gonna get some, you know, but at the same time, we're taking in, what, 15 miles of lane miles and 3 miles of primary and 15 of secondary, something like that. I'm looking at DW to make sure I got my numbers close to being right, so, I mean, we gotta make sure they're paved, we gotta make sure they're maintained, we gotta make sure, you know, so, I mean, you know, but the good part of that was that VDOT is actually, and that reimbursement is good for now, I mean, going on, I mean, they're not looking to, I mean, that'll be ongoing, so. But anyway, that was just, I wanted to point that out because, and make sure I knew that kind of how much that was, because I knew it was a decent sized number. Did you hear that, Darren, on the
Some of
VDOT
it.
stuff? The VDOT funding?
Part of it.
His face.
I was busy.
So anyway,
let him
we
eat
got-
cake.
it's about 575,000 in
Yeah.
additional VDOT funding we're gonna get for
Is that for the
roads.
roundabout? Oh, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Nobody knows
Planning for it,
roundabout.
yeah. All right, so has anybody got any, does anybody got any different ideas of the use of that money? And knowing that that's gonna be kind of a budget amendment at some point we're gonna get, I guess, when we get the fiscal notice from VDOT next year, is that how that works, or?
Well, I think you could probably go ahead and do it for the council adopted budget.
Okay,
At the final, we can make an amendment.
you can get those numbers in there and talk with DW and you'll just let us know what buckets you think they ought to go in. I mean, I don't guess there's any additional salaries or anything that you can use to pay any of that.
Well, we'll probably have to have one more person for street crew wise to maintain areas, because, you know, it's also signage,
Right,
you know, road work, stuff like that.
right. Well, like I said, I'll let you come up with a recommendation of where you want to put that money, that's obviously. But keep in mind, we still want to do sidewalks, we want to do.
Now, tonight, we have to set
We got to set the tax rate tonight.
tax rate. That's
We don't
the
have to finalize the budget. We have to set the tax rate. So is there other areas of the budget? So we haven't gotten very far, general fund.
Well, I mean, on your suggestion, I think it I'm in agreement. For consensus sake, what you had said is a reasonable compromise, I think, on the 28 cents. A little bit more from
Yeah.
the transfer. The
And-
B-pole at 1 instead of 2.
Right. Do we have to set the B-pole rate? That wasn't an action item. Do we?
It's not billed until January, so I think you have additional time on that.
Okay.
That's just part of the budget approval,
Okay. All right. So we don't have to set that. We got to set the real estate tax rate tonight.
personal property.
Is everybody good at 28, Bob?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, 28 could be good on that, but if we could go any lower, that'd be even better. But I would be good at 28, it's better than 29.
Okay, all right. All right, so, and everybody's good on doing the B-pole the way we talked about phasing it in? Is everybody,
Yeah,
That's what it should be. So
yeah,
Reinstating it.
right, reinstating it?
gradually.
All right. personal property tax rate, same thing, we're not making any changes there, we're still giving everybody $20,000 worth of tax relief.
Correct.
Have we gotten any numbers? Have they come back down to assessed values?
I have heard from the commissioner's office that based on what she's seen, assessments are down 17% from last year.
Is that factored into here?
Yes.
That is factored in here, okay. All right, good. Right on top of it, and keep it up. Let's see, what else we got? We don't have any equipment, tools, machinery and tools tax, we don't have any of that. Still not proposing any of that. We'll let Bedford County take all those taxes. Same thing on, what is it, equipment, there's two of them, machinery,
Oh, business furniture and fixtures.
business furniture and fixtures, we don't charge any on that, okay. All right. So there's another opportunity down the road for somebody if they want to diversify their tax base, but anyway, we're not making those proposals this year.
Or, well, we're being business friendly, let's put it that way.
We've been very business friendly, and we always have been, you know. But now, that, like I said,
That's important that
are we putting too much on the backs of the residents? That's the
question.
All right, solid waste, we got a balanced budget. I'm sure it's pretty tight.
Yes.
And all those numbers factor in the new customers.
And it may even be a little bit high based on what I'm hearing, that we've been looking at sites and not everybody may be eligible
Right, okay.
for service. But we did drop down refuse disposal charges. It had been inflated over what we were actually getting, so we had to take a rather large hit to DW's budget this year on solid waste.
Cool.
And he was able to get a reduction in our landfill costs for the continuous monitoring, and that was the main way we balanced the budget.
And so we get rid of that debt in 3 years? I think it,
It should be, I mean,
I think all our debt's in 3 years, is gone in 3 years.
I think that's correct.
2026, right?
general fund that, yeah.
Well, I think,
I thought that was the plan.
yeah.
I don't know about electric, I think we still have some,
Yeah, if you look at
Issues
page
outstanding.
92, it's got all of our debt schedule on there, and it looks like fiscal year 26 is our, excuse me, 26, 27, that's our last payment in solid waste fund.
So we're going in, this budget's 23,
23,
24,
24. 4 more cycles.
4 more years. We have 4 more years, not 3 more years. Essentially debt-free, assuming we don't.
Go deeper into
We also have to keep an eye on what the county's doing with their landfill operation based on the reversion agreement.
Right,
If they ever go to a fee basis, then that negates that benefit for us.
right. All right.
But we're talking about contingencies already.
So no capital in solid waste, correct? So we've already paid for the trash truck. We've already paid for the car, all the carts.
Got 'em.
All that's done. All right.
I guess one of the biggest changes for DW, and what I'm hearing too, is that brush is a very large cost for us. It's costing about $100,000 a year right now on contract services for brush. So just something to be aware of.
And I'm talking to the county administrator about ways we can send some business their way that actually would benefit them by giving them revenues. And the latest is we're talking about maybe directing our non-residential brush to the county, which I'm having lunch with Robert tomorrow. I'll broach that conversation. But the expenditure for brush continues to climb, but we're looking at ways we can at least split that up and abate it.
Have we ever looked at, DW, have we ever looked at, with anybody like a business that's in the mulch business or something, have we ever, would they come and take our stuff for free?
We've done that a couple times before, and it lasts a couple of months, and it don't work out.
Don't work out. No.
And part of the problem is because we have a guy come and got it, because he wanted chips and take the paper back. But if people come in and drop brush, we don't have somebody supervised with the drop, so we don't accept it because it's national capital. Then we had another person that would come and get it, you know, to do it for the chips and stuff, and it overwhelmed, it was too much.
Yeah.
They couldn't keep up.
Right.
And I ran some numbers today, I was talking to Ann earlier, if you take the amount of brush that we get versus how many residents divide it up on the average, and I know not everybody puts out brush, it's just an average for customers. Every you know, if you do the tonnage and divide it, it's about 500 pounds a year per household. So with the area that we're taking in, we're probably gonna see a 200-ton increase, if those numbers are true. You're gonna see a 200-ton increase in brush that we have to deal with. And Ann and Bart and I have looked other ways, you know, because they make burners, air burners up there where you can get it and burn it. But we would have to do that at a different site because at the landfill you have methane gas that's released. So your DEQ permits don't allow open air burning, so we have to move to a different site to do that. But the cost of the machine and the payback was, you know, $400,000 to get one.
Yeah.
And then the manpower to operate. So you do away with your $100,000 of grinding, but you got to purchase a machine for $400,000 that might last 10 years and pays might run. So it's a challenge.
You get energy off of it.
That trash is just no good to anybody.
No future in it.
Does anybody got any questions on solid waste? Electric?
Okay, question on solid waste. I've heard situations where people were able to turn their trash into electricity, to energy. Is there any way that could be done, for the record?
Yeah, but we don't have the volume to do that because if you have an incinerator that, you know, does a turbine, that does it, creates steam, does it, they do it in the Virginia Beach area, but you've got to have that kind of density of population to produce it. I mean, for what we get, we would not be able to run it here.
All right, electric? Any, where's that electric capital? So John, what, are you seeing revenues kind of steady, and are they decline, or still continuing to decline? I mean, you wanna?
Yeah, I expect, we still have not recovered from COVID, our sales. We're down about 10% from 2019. And I don't see at this point that it's coming back. You know, we've had a fair amount of time since COVID stopped, but we're not seeing any bounce back.
Well, and all this new stuff, every bit of new stuff's gonna be much more efficient
Yeah,
and
and
remodeled.
you get, your appliance stock gets turned over and more efficiency, and we have some rooftop solar now, things like that. So I don't see it. The only little bit of growth we might see is like the new apartments down here at 620, maybe at the middle school, and a little bit of residential growth.
Right.
But other than that, I don't see any big items on the horizon.
Sure. Probably not right now, John, but wouldn't electric cars in the long run start to?
Possibly, but that's probably 5 years away.
That's what I was
before we see
thinking,
any
like
kind of
about
real
5 years.
impact. Now, one thing I want to point out, and I've had this discussion with Bart many times, is under this pay plan, the electric department gets virtually no increase. We have 1 or 2 employees that are below the midpoint, and they're just like new hire types. But everybody else in the electric department is above the midpoint. So we'll see very little change, which in our competitive world is not good. I pretty much gave up on hiring A linemen now. We're just pursuing apprentices. And I had an interview with an engineer last week, and our range was maybe $80,000 to $90,000 for that job. He was already making $150,000. Obviously, it's not going to be a fit. So what we've had to do is come up with a contingency of backup services from an engineering firm. And I can see that sometime by the end of the year, that we'll lose our part-time engineer. So we'll be dependent on an engineering firm for those services, probably by the end of the year.
And with employees, we are also going to be coming to you in January with an expansion of the maximum of the grade to match the city of Salem, but that's no guarantee that we'll be any more competitive than we are.
And I do think it's highly likely we'll be losing 3 linemen in January to retire.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult for us.
Jones.
You have any solutions, recommendations, or?
Well, for the engineering spot, I want to create an energy analyst position that can take the reporting section of those responsibilities, and then we'll just have to rely on an outside engineer until we can find somebody. But even the young guys who just coming out of school, they want to be in the $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 range, and they know nothing. You got to train them. So,
Well, but it's not just here, is it, John? I mean, other utilities are having the same
No.
issues to a point.
What AMP does, and I know this now that I'm on the board, is every year they adjust their bandwidth by the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So this year their bandwidth is going up by almost 7%. Now that doesn't mean you're going to get a 7% increase, but it just allows you to make adjustments.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I see out there in the industry to be competitive. We're never going to be competitive with APCO or Dominion, but we need to be able to see. where they are.
Well, I totally agree, and we don't need to try to, but we need to stay to where it's attractive.
Yeah.
To where people want to, as I've said, and you've said 1,000 times, to where this geographic area is where you're going to work.
That's right.
And that makes a big difference to some.
The main thing we can offer candidates is you can go home at night. You're not
That's it.
going to be in Ohio or Texas, or wherever.
Yeah.
And that's attractive to the older fellows who value that. But the younger folks, well, they look at it as a challenge to be all over the country, so it's a different demographic.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get to that point at some time.
John, do you have a figure of what we should be paying linemen in this area?
I think we were probably 15 to 20% below the lowest pay grade of the others.
That's what I'm afraid of.
So, yeah.
So hourly wise, what are we paying?
I think our base rate is somewhere around $35. The base rate for APCO is $52.50.
Yeah, you were telling me here a while
Yeah.
back that they just signed a union contract for $52 an hour.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I guess our base rate's more like $30 an hour, to tell you the truth.
Our class plan is on page 94, and that has all of the positions for the town.
So where would you think it should be, just out of curiosity, around 40 or high 30s or what?
Yeah, I think around 40 would make sense. I mean, you're still 25% below
Yeah.
the others. The other issue we have is we have got great benefits for the employees, just great. But if you're a family man, it doesn't work out to be that way. And we've had several cases where we've got to the finish line with a candidate and made it clear what our insurance coverage was, and they bailed out. They didn't want to go forward. So that's another issue we have to.
So another
The cost of the
challenge.
insurance.
Yeah.
The benefits themselves are great,
They are.
just nobody can afford it.
That's right. That's right. If you have a +1 or a family, it's.
Was it
extremely-
time to look outside of local choice?
We can, but honestly, our experience management is as
That's
We've managed that liability as well as we can.
Yeah.
If we were on our own, we'd get much higher premiums.
No, I'm not talking about self-insured. I just didn't know if there was other options.
We're in the
private.
largest pool I think we qualify for now.
For in the state pool. We do something different that other localities may do, is that they subsidize the family insurance plan more than the employee only. Whereas we only pay for the employee only. Anything beyond that's on the employee to pay.
Correct.
So that there's a potential that you could subsidize it, but it would be at a cost to the
Right.
town.
Right, yeah, so it's another challenge with revenues, you know, so I mean, the only way we work our way out of this, guys, is we grow some. We got to grow some.
Yeah, that's the key.
I mean, you know, to find new sources of revenue, I mean,
Now, one good thing that I can say is our budget for purchase power has been more influenced by last year's prices than what we're seeing for this year. So we should come in below what we're projecting if market prices stay where they are now. They've come down about 40% from
Wow.
the end of last year.
that's,
I have no
that's not
explanation.
reflected in this budget.
That's not reflected because we did all these projections, prior to that. Now, we don't know if that's going to continue, it's kind of like walking on eggshells at this point because there's no explanation for it.
So what's gonna happen in our PCA coming up in May?
It is, but we recommended it to stay where it is. We're not asking for any increase. And then if things continue in this vein, we should be able to decrease it in the November adjustment.
Right, okay. So, anybody got any questions on any of the capital, I got one question on the large utility truck, large or small, what year truck are you replacing there?
I'm not sure which one we would replace. We have two, what we call small bucket trucks. One was here when I came here, so it's at least 8 years old. So that one it's probably like 10 years old now. And that would probably be replaced. That would be the one. Although we found out it's a year and a half or 2 years. So even if we put the order in July 1st, we won't get it the next fiscal year. It'll be the following year. And on some of this budget is because we anticipate ordering material. We have to be able to come up with a purchase order for that material, but we probably won't get it until the following year. And we've seen no improvement in the supply chain. If anything, it's gotten worse. Right now, we can't get meter bases. We can't get transformers. So I can see if things continue the way they are, sometime before the end of the year, we won't be able to connect new customers. We just won't have material. So, we placed a large transformer order on July 1st last year. Don't have any idea when it's coming. When done the same thing with meter bases, they're just not in the pipeline.
Are they just not being made, or you just can't get the?
Well, and part of it
Rate
is that during COVID, there was a big cutback in production. And the big guys are out there. I mean, somebody like APCO or AEP
buying all
goes
of
to the
it.
manufacturer. They buy everything for a year,
Right.
Those
And
big
so
companies?
that puts little guys like us way
If we have
back
a
to the-
storm that knock out these transformers too, we in trouble though.
Yeah. What we do, we normally don't even buy new transformers except large size, because we send our old ones back to get rebuilt, which is a little quicker than a new one, but it's still about a year turnaround.
Anybody got any other questions on electric stuff? Back real quick on, since we've kind of been talking about capital, Bart, I don't know, this kind of goes back to the Edmund Street Park stuff. Bart, you want to explain kind of what the school board's looking for us and?
Yeah, we're real close to a resolution on the transfer of property. Dr. Bergen called me, maybe it was last month after their meeting, and said that the school board has reached a consensus to transfer ownership of the park portion of the property that we requested. with the request that we continue to mow for the remainder of the contract, which I think is through calendar year, I think it's January of 2028. But they were also interested in the improvements that we wanted to make, so I would like to, I'm going to get with DW, propose that we add some things to the CIP, not in 23, 24 necessarily, but in 24, 25, 25, 26, that we can communicate to the school board. And when I'm talking about that for Edmund Street Park, improving the parking area, putting some lights on the basketball court, improving the pavilion, probably some security measures, things like that. Not huge, big ticket items, but to satisfy the curiosity of the school board.
Why are they asking that? I mean, what?
Because they can.
We're paying for it, correct?
Well, they're going to transfer it to us at no cost.
Yeah, but I mean, those improvements, we're taking care of that. Yeah, never mind.
Never mind. It's that whole thing. A supervisor said last night, people should stay in their lane, you know, but anyway.
Stay in their wheelhouse. I know that.
Dr. Bergen just presented it as more of a curiosity at this point. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
a stumbling block.
Yeah, he generally acted like he was interested in the situation.
I mean, Mark and I could probably get this worked out real quickly, but
So, anyway, I mean, has anybody got anything to, I mean, if we start with that list and just go from there, I mean, that's
Yeah.
really not committing anybody to anything, but it's, those
But
are
after
things.
what they pulled before, I wanted, you know, when you come back and ask for that, I just don't want it to be something that they could say, okay, they told us they were gonna do this, this, and this, and we're not in a position to do it, and then they hold that against us.
No, we're gonna get the property before, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I don't
no,
know,
the property
because
would be
after what they pulled
transferred, yeah.
before-
The property would be transferred as
Yeah.
soon as Mr. Lockerbie could get that taken care of, hopefully. I mean, if once they vote on it and approve it, I guess we gotta vote on it to accept it, you know, but after that, I mean, under those terms, you
we'll
know.
reference our intent to make the
But I
improvements.
think they would like to
And
get
if it's
that,
in the CIP, that's,
you know, I think they would like to get that list before their next meeting so they can move it
That's-
through
that's
their
fine.
process
I mean,
and,
that's-
you know. But no, they can't tell us when we're gonna do something, I don't think.
Yeah,
See what they pulled last time, so those, hey, they always got something. Yeah, they give it to us and we have it in our hands with nothing but pay.
Right.
I'm still skeptical of it.
I understand.
Right,
understand, Mr.
rightfully so.
All right. Now, I guess, what else? Anything, I guess the outside agencies.
community organizations, I'm sorry, we should refer
Community
to.
organizations, yes. So what
I
page
put
is
outside
that on?
agencies on the agenda, but it's. Absent D-Day's request, which again, I'm not going to make a recommendation on, it's 35,500 for the others.
81, page 81.
Isn't that our cap? Didn't you set a cap when we made
Yes, I
that
believe that is
form?
in
It's
the
35
policy.
was the cap, and they had to fill the form out and everything. That was-
These are the ones who responded according to the policy that we implemented beginning in 2020.
And we're not at the 5-year where we implemented that policy where they can only be on there 5 years and then come off. 81.
We have discretion to give zero.
We certainly do.
and we don't have it built into the budget this year.
No, so obviously, now we're down to 100,000 in contingency if whatever we fund here is probably gonna go against that line. The easy one, brain injury services, I don't even know what that, I mean,
I know what Darren's response is.
Well, you don't know.
They said they support case management services for Bedford residents with acquired brain injuries. All of our services are provided free to Bedford residents. And it's the only organization making these services in the area for free. Their existence is crucial to many survivors of brain injury and their family. That's what they said.
This.
it's on page 81.
Oh, down here, okay. I was like on top.
And the D-Day Memorial one, that's a contribution to their capital for which phase? You know, there was several phases they came and talked to us about. Did they identify what phase that's going towards?
Yes, let me open So they're proposing a contribution from the town in the amount of $250,000 over 5 years as outlined below. $50,000 in sponsorships for 5 years for major events. These include Memorial Day concert, D-Day, and Veterans Day. $2,250 towards each event annually for 5 years, with the exception of the 80th anniversary in 2024, which would be for $7,250. And then they're asking for $200,000 of that money towards the capital campaign. These funds would be spread out over 3 projects described in the materials that they presented to you: the walking trail, the outdoor amphitheater, and the 1940s motor pool.
So this is not the 50,000 is not a one-time ask. It's the first payment on a 5-year pledge, basically.
Yes, that's what they're asking.
Well, with a $35,000 lid on this, per what we've already put in place, I don't see how that's feasible.
I think that was supposed to go to the education center or something like that, from when we talk about it.
Yeah, the amphitheater, the walking path.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, they
education
talked
center.
about the additional
Or
improvements.
the motor pool museum, I think, is.
They were supposed to go to one of them projects.
Yeah.
I think they're doing fine over there at DA from what I've seen, so they're all great. I wish we could give money away to everybody.
Well, the Bedford ride is that's a needed, there's no public transportation in this town.
The Autobus,
Bedford ride.
the Autobus, you got that?
Yeah, I know, that's what.
That's not the same thing.
That's not, the Bedford Ride.
Bedford Ride's different. That's for specific pickup and take for medical care, right?
Medical care, yes, correct.
Bedford Autobus is
Is that-
just, there's a separate funding line item for that, I think.
Actually, it doesn't cost us anything.
Right, it's a grant and it's a wash.
It's a pass-through, yeah.
Right, but that's not here, that's different.
Different.
Oh, right, excuse me,
Yeah, Bedford Ride is
I read
specific. You
that
can't
wrong.
get to the doctor, you don't have a ride, and you
Yeah.
meet certain criteria. I mean, they're all great. This is not an attack on any of these places, but I just, when we're talking about doing what we're doing and, you know, as far as not equalizing the tax rates.
I think we've done it for so long, though, it's kind of hard to say no. You know, this has been pretty much a part of what we do. It might not be what they asked for, but we've done it for a long time. You know?
Yeah, and I know, and I think one of the compromises a few years ago was we at least agreed to the $35,000 cap. That's in the form, that's written down somewhere. I know we did that.
It was,
And we-
that's,
We created the format that they had to fill out the form and go through the process. So I think we got to stick to that. We can't just randomly be throwing money at people.
You know, personally, I look at how much everyone's asking for, and, you know, the fact that I don't know what they're gonna spend the money on for each group that's asking for the money. I would feel more comfortable if they're actually telling us what they're planning to spend the money on instead of saying, hey, just write us a check.
They actually do in their application, I think, don't they? They actually do,
Yes, they tell what they're asking for.
yeah.
Yeah,
There is
they have to fill it out in a form.
And you got to remember, we're all county residents too. And I'm pretty sure the county gives money
Yes,
to these organizations.
they
So
do.
not only are the town residents giving it here, they're giving it also as county residents.
do you know which one? I know the museum, obviously.
Yep.
I would guess D-Day, but I don't know.
I don't think they.
You don't think the
I
county
they
gives
give
anything
to
to
the Bedford
D-Day?
Boys Tribute Center. I don't.
No, I'm talking D-Day. I think the county does.
The Bauer Center's a matching thing for.
There's a matching fund.
Yeah, Bauer's probably totally just us, I would think.
Bedford
Maybe the
Ride,
county
they
does.
definitely give money to Bedford Ride.
And the Bauer Center is funded in the budget because that is just like a grant match. So we get 4,500.
Right.
And we match 4,500.
I think Tim was asking those, we don't know right here what the county is also giving to these people, and we are county and town,
Right.
so we're paying twice for this stuff.
Well, the museum is a county-owned facility. Obviously, they're
Yeah, that's
fixing
their
it up
grant.
right now.
They provide that building.
I mean, what we gave
tell
the
you-
museum, we gave the or we gave. I mean,
The,
some of these we gave less last year. The Educational Foundation we gave the same, right?
I believe so. I will, if you want, I can just briefly tell you what they're asking for. Do you want that, or do you want to?
I thought that was
If
what this
it's,
was.
if it's anything specific, if it's just operating, I mean, it's,
Let me just go through the list real quick, and I can kind of do a summary of what each organization put on their application. So, the first one I have in here is the Bedford Area Educational Foundation. They asked for $2,500. They said this is a one-time request. We would like to ask who's your request, excuse me. They're using it towards, it looks like a general service here.
I think what they generally do is they provide stipends for
Grants.
particular grants for particular programs within their educational program.
and I can't argue one way or the other on that one because I'll serve on their board, so
Yes.
I'm not even gonna talk about that one.
Not particular, like, they don't spell out specifically like who it's going to or anything.
Right.
The Bedford Museum does. They are asking for the second floor display case to be upgraded. That is what their request is. The brain injury, I already went over that. That's for what services they provide. D-Day, we went through that. And this is the Bedford Boys Tribute Center. I'm not seeing anything specific. It looks like
Operating costs.
it's more operating on what they're looking for.
Okay.
Why don't we do like we go do every year, go down the list and
Well, let me throw some numbers out then, just to start the discussion.
that's all.
Just start it out. Bedford Area Educational Foundation, 2,000. Bedford Museum, 2,000. Brain Injury, 500. D-Day, 5,000. Tribute Center, 5. Bedford Ride, 5. Wharton Garden, 45. So let's go from there. And
Like we were before.
Or I do like Darren's idea, but
Well, we gotta keep it at 35.
Yeah.
I lost track.
Yeah, well, we gotta keep it at, so we gotta keep it at 35. We're not going above that.
That's
If we
below.
go,
Or we can go below that.
or we can go below that if we want.
Are we sure, like, when a new one, it sounds great, brain injury services, have we vetted these people? Do we know, are they accredited, or is this just like Fred who started something?
I mean, they do provide documentation and financial
What we
statements.
can do is we can prepare the packets for you with all the information, or we can just give you a summary.
I just want to make sure they're legit outfits before we go giving them money.
I mean, they're filing tax returns, I guess we can say that.
I don't think we need to give that one. I
They
mean,
sound nice, but we don't know.
Yeah.
It can-
brain injury sounded,
I mean, yeah,
I'm
I'm
fine.
sorry.
Want to scratch that one?
Scratch that one. no.
Okay.
Everything we've been
That's
talking.
gonna be.
Yeah.
They only want 500.
I don't know. It makes me wonder about it,
Seems like a bargain, doesn't
See
it?
if we can get away with
That's kind of the way I was looking at it.
Yeah, we'll take that one. That's cheap.
Yeah, that's the way,
Never mind
exactly.
what they
It's
do.
like, well, we gotta give them
For
money.
a brain
They got a
injury,
great
500,
name.
I thought, yeah, it is a good bargain.
They may be a very legitimate group, but.
Or we can go by CG's suggestion, let Darren take care of it.
2, 4,
They'll take care of the whole
Make
lot.
sure they're
2,
legit.
4.
5, 10, 15.
We don't have to go to 35, that's just the cap.
Yeah, we can be under.
Okay.
Well,
Yes.
so my question is on the D-Day. You know, this is a little different because it's a capital improvement. But obviously,
I think that should go under a different category.
yeah, me too. I don't think I think we should, I mean, I'm thinking, could we use 50,000 of our ARPA money
Yeah, or EDA, I don't know.
to fund that?
Yeah, I think it's a different category.
You know, I totally agree.
Start general, here's your 5, put us on your wall. You know, we did just-
Yeah, no, I mean, that's,
Sorry.
Well, I thought that's what we was doing one time before, because I remember the last two budget sessions, they was in a different,
It was in a sponsorship under economic development, I think, or something maybe, huh? So how much are they asking for? The capital stuff was 200,000, right? And the rest was sponsorship stuff. So now we're down to 40,000 a year,
Yes.
if we're just talking about the capital.
Again, I think that comes out of a different category.
Yeah.
I do.
This is just the general, here, thank you for being here.
Right. All right, so do we
I
want
mean,
to?
I think zero, let's make that clear, but I'm compromising now. Okay, if we're gonna give something.
You know,
You want to take a break?
I mean, 5 works for me. I don't think we need to get in this 50 and yearly don't pledges. Not here.
I think they're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to support them.
And what is the county giving?
Yeah.
I don't
You
know.
don't get your envelope in the mail?
You what?
You don't get your little envelope in the mail to support?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Good.
Fire department, same way.
All right, so let's pull the DDA out right now for
Okay.
further discussion, either later or, because we're getting close. So let's pull the DDA out, because that's a different level of discussion, because it's a 5-year pledge. You know, so. All right, so CG's, you're leading the discussion. Where, start us out?
Yeah, where were we?
Now, again, this is for discussion. I just started at the top, Bedford Area Educational Foundation, I said 2,000,
Okay.
and we can drop that. Bedford Museum, 2,000.
we can drop that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just throwing this out to start at. Brain injury, which I thought was a real bargain, yet we scratched that one.
Nothing there.
D-Day, we've
For now.
coming back to that. Tribute Center, I said 5,000. Bedford Ride, 5,000. And Wharton Memorial, 45, because that's matching, correct?
Right.
Oh, oh, okay.
I thought that was matching.
We gave them, we gave
Bauer
more than
Center is
3,000
our
last year.
Yeah, okay, let's go 3. Yeah, 3.
Right, didn't we give them 3,000 last year? We gave Bedford Ride, how much we give them last year?
4,500.
4,500.
So where's Bauer this year?
It's in there. It's in community development. They're funded by a grant that they get through us. We're actually the eligible party, and they,
Yeah.
So we're running that in a different
Correct.
category. Okay,
So,
fair enough.
I know Bedford Boys Tribute was 3,000 last year,
Yeah,
right?
it was 3,000.
Because
No,
last
actually, I
year,
think
we
it
did
was less.
Bedford Ride Program, 4,500, Bauer Center, 9,000. Then we did the Bedford Area Educational Foundation for 2,000, Bedford Museum for 3,000, Wharton Gardens for 3,000, and Bedford Boys Tribute Center for 3,000.
Which adds up to
Total of 24,500.
Now they done jacked it up.
6.
Yes, they have.
Oh, okay, that
And
includes
that
the
again.
Bauer Center, which, yeah. So if you not don't include the Bauer Center,
No, Bauer Center,
we're
okay.
basically the same. If we, I mean, we're $1,000 less than what we did last year because of the museum. So at, what is that, if we did 3,000 at the museum, it's 5,000, 8,000, 11,000, $15,500. And that's level with what we did last year. No change.
We don't cut into the contingency fund too much.
you know, all these organizations are definitely worthy of game night, but the problem is, right now, we're looking at making cuts to try and lower the tax rate to make it less painful when we do part 2. So, you know, what if we did this is Educational Foundation, we did $1,000, Museum did $1,000, Brain Injury, we did $250, Tribute Center, we did maybe $1,000, Bedford Rides, $2,000, Wharton Garden, $2,000.
So that's,
Well, on there about the Warden Gardens, we do, that's pretty much town property or whatever. And, you know, we just give them money to maintain it for us.
And they do a good job.
We're not hiring an arborist.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, so the 3,000 for the water garden, I would be fine with.
That's all volunteer labor.
3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 82.50.
Let's go down it again. What are we looking at the top?
1,000 on the educational foundation.
1,000.
I know.
Okay,
Museum, 1,000.
all right.
The museum, you talking about the Bedford Museum or the Bedford Boys Tribute?
No, Bedford.
Is it-
Okay, I'll say cut the museum out, because they get money for the county.
Well, we kind of, I hate not to support them, but
Because the last time I looked, I think it was a bunch or two ago, the museum actually gets about over $60,000 for the county for funding. And then they having all this upgrade and stuff on the thing, so I'll just say cut the Bedford Museum completely out this year.
I'd be fine with that.
I don't see where $1,000 is gonna make.
no, that's not going to make or break
I
us. I'd rather give 1,000 than nothing, but
I'd rather give something, if we're going to be giving
Yeah,
money
that's-
away.
yeah.
I think they are an important hub. I mean,
Right.
it's actually a pretty good museum for a small town and county, and, you
Yeah.
know. So I think if we went zero, it almost sends a message like,
yeah.
like they've done
They're
something
not-
wrong.
They're
and
not important.
What did we do?
Yeah.
So
we got-
I'm okay with 1,000.
What do we have on D-Day?
Nothing right now.
Oh, that's right.
So when you say right now, though, are you talking about a different category? What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
Added at the end?
okay. I guess we can see what we got.
Okay, go ahead. So the tribute center, what did we say, 5? What did we do?
No, no,
What'd you say?
it was 3 last year.
Okay, 3.
All right.
Well, whatever, I'm just asking.
Bruce said 1,000.
All right,
I mean, I think,
3. Okay.
I'm okay with either of those numbers.
myself, I was just kind of okay with level funding, but.
You mean from last year?
Yeah, but, I can certainly, like I said, I can't speak to the educational foundation, so whatever y'all do there, that's fine.
And then Bedford Run, where were we?
So we did 3 to the museum, 1,000 to education, that's 4,000. Nothing to the brain service. We did,
I thought you said 1,000 to the museum.
that's what I'm saying, yeah. If you
Yeah.
did, all right, so do 1,000 and 1,000, that's 2,000. Bedford Boys Tribute, you're gonna cut them all the way to 1,000?
Yeah.
3,000.
Everybody at that.
Bedford Ride,
Nobody giving me
2,000, that's,
Say 2,000. All right,
and Wharton, 3,000.
3, okay. All right,
So that's 3, 2, 6, so $8,000. Right, Ann? Is everybody good with that?
yeah.
It's the best we've had since I've been on
You're
council.
gonna get it to 0 next year.
Trying to zero that
You're
thing
gonna
out.
get it to 0 next year, Darren.
Bedford Area Foundation is 1,000, museums 1,000, tribute centers 3,000, Bedford Ride is 2,000, and Wharton is 3,000. Is that right?
No, I think it was 1,000 to the tribute center.
Okay.
It was 1,000 tribute.
Yeah,
And how much was it to Bedford Ride?
I have 2,000,
2,000.
is that right?
So sure you don't wanna do another 1,000 there. I mean, they do provide, I mean, they're the only one that does kind of provide a service to our citizens.
Bedford Ride?
Yes. I mean, you know, not to everybody, but they do provide a service to our citizens.
Well,
You
you
know.
go on, give them 3,000, so that makes it 9,000.
All right, so
We
is
keep
that
it
good?
under 10,
I mean,
okay.
we'll get a chance to change it and when we vote on the final budget, but we gotta put the numbers in the budget right now.
So go with that for now?
Yep,
I'm good with that.
all right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Yep.
gonna need to stretch before council starts.
All right, so,
What about
anything,
D-Day?
huh?
What about D-Day, what do we want to do there?
What do we want to do on, I mean, obviously, that's a long, I mean, that's not a one-year commitment.
No, I don't think we can pledge to be on, this is a one-year deal, this. I don't think this is for pledging multi-years out right here, no way.
Yeah, because, I mean, we really can't
No
commit
way.
future councils to
Yeah, we
future
just cried
liability.
poverty here all night, now it's all here, how much money you guys want? No.
Well, do you want, all right, so, we're at 9, so do we want to give D-Day,
$5,000 is about my cap on that one.
Yeah.
That's where I was at, around 5,
I
but
mean, I know they want this pledge, that's a separate discussion.
How about 3 and make it 12,000 even? Give 3,000 to them for the moment.
that's fine.
That's fine too, I don't.
Just make it simple, $12,000, that's it.
and D-Day 3, what'd you say, 3?
3.
All right.
I do want to bring up this, and I know we did visit the Y this year, so I don't know if that's anything that we can look into this year or not.
I mean, that's $250,000.
I know, I'm just making that statement.
I mean, that's $500,000 worth of tax. I mean, they're great organizations and they contribute, but that's, I mean,
Just make this-
unless Ann can figure out some creative way we can, I mean, is this something that could be run through the EDA? Through a grant process or something? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm just throwing that on you, Mary, right now, but I mean, you know, is it some type of grant process? But I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of money. And you know, when we were a city and we had more revenues and, you know, it was easier to do, I guess it was easier.
We gotta
for them
find
do
out
that.
what the county's giving. The county sends a lot of children to that daycare that's coming over there.
I'm not sure they're gonna send any, but anyway. So maybe if you can check and see, well, I don't know if they've approved their budget yet either, but maybe we can check and see what they've committed.
Well, I got an idea. I don't know how any of you feel about this or not. What about instead of giving the tribute center $1,000, maybe we give the Y $1,000? I mean, at least we'd be giving them something. I mean,
Well, they didn't
They
make a
haven't even
request,
asked.
so I don't think you can, I
Yeah,
mean,
they
they didn't really make
They haven't submitted even a
They didn't
formal
really make a
request.
formal
Yeah.
request, so I mean.
You can't start giving out people who don't even ask.
Yeah, only thing
That's gonna set a new precedent.
only thing they done was let us tour the facility and show us different things that might be coming down the road or whatever, so.
Well, I mean, I would love to be able to figure out how to do it, but,
It's not before us right now on the Y, so you're just
Yeah.
saying in the future, that's fine.
I'll just mention.
Back of the mind.
all right,
Food for thought.
There we go.
anything else? So we're all good, Ann, you got any questions on what we've kinda, all right. Thank y'all.
Totally
All right,
confused.
so our work session is adjourned.
Yeah.